and that's a great thing about the React 19 is the resources, the advocacy, the people helping out the injured. Be like, okay, we're here to listen to you and provide resources. And like you mentioned, now we have a military chapter. So it's me and a few other people that are working on this military chapter of React 19, where we're supporting currently serving service members and veterans that have been injured by the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. So it's a very specific scope, and it's going to help out so many people. And it first starts with that we're here to listen and hear what you have to say, and then that builds a community. And then it's like, okay, now here are the resources that other people have used that have helped out a lot.
Welcome to the React19 podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again today. I'm Ann Forty, the host of the React19 podcast. And today my guest is Drew, an Army veteran who in the spring of 2021 was a very fit and healthy 36-year-old retired service member, but still actively serving in the Minnesota National Guard. However, as vaccine mandates were sweeping through the military and feeling mounting pressure from his employer as well, Drew rolled up his sleeve and received the COVID vaccine. What followed was absolutely life-altering. Drew was left paralyzed and diagnosed with Guillain-Barré Syndrome, a devastating autoimmune condition triggered by the vaccine. Today, Drew is here to share his powerful story, his 4-year battle with vaccine injury, and how he's turning that pain into purpose by helping React19 launch a new military chapter focused on providing financial, physical, and emotional support to active military members and veterans suffering from COVID-19 vaccine injury. Drew, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it very much. I'm looking forward to having a conversation about this.
Yes, well, I think your story, well, I think every story needs to be told, and I think you will add to the depth and the breadth of this conversation and just how you've handled all of this. But if you could just share first about your military background, when did you enter the military? Just kind of give a short backstory on how that came to be, and then, get us up to date to where you are now.
Yeah, I joined the military early in 2004, so not too long after 9/11, and just figured I could make a difference. Just being 130 pounds soaking wet, I could figure I could get some good training, some good leadership, and that's kind of what happened. But then shipped off right away to Iraq, spent a year there
Wow.
at 19 years old, couldn't even drink.
19?
Yep.
Okay.
20. So yeah,
Okay.
between 19 and 20, but got home before my 21st birthday.
Wow.
But uh but yeah, it was incredible being part of something bigger, learning the training, everything that goes into it. It developed who I am today of doing the right thing, integrity, doing the right thing even when no one's looking. And those core values just stayed with me this whole time. And the whole idea of listening to your leadership, listening to experts and professionals,
Mm.
thinking that you're going to be, given the right information and direction and orders, and then realizing in the last 4 years that's not kind of been the case.
So you enlisted, and then what? Okay, so then you came home. So then what?
Yep. Well, it's a little bit different, and some other service member soldiers have similar in different cases.
Okay.
I spent 4 years active duty
Okay.
with Third Infantry Division mostly, and then I got out, went to college, decided to go get an education, and that worked really well, being back home in Minnesota, and then graduated and realized I still want to serve. I still want to wear the uniform and do the right thing, but stay local. So I joined the Minnesota National Guard and spent another 11 or so years there, and then added on another deployment at the time in that 2018, 2019 kind of time.
Okay. All right. And so then take us up to where the shot.
Yeah, 2019, I get home and realize that, yep, I can get back to work and doing my account executive job while also taking my education next level, going to school for a master's degree. So get that going.
So,
2020 hap
so
Yep.
wait, you were in the military, you're in school, you're working, and you have
Yeah.
a family.
Yep. At the time,
You're
I had an infant
busy.
child at the time. So
You're a busy man.
yeah, didn't think of it. Everyone has their own path to go on and juggling a lot of things. And that was just kind of my life. And so 2020 rolls around and we get the lockdowns and all this. And so I'm serving the time. I actually got activated in the Minnesota Guard for the civil unrest that happened in the summer of 2020. And that was instrumental because that was when the full-on pandemic was going on, and yet we're working together hand in hand, doing all this. We're actually sleeping on the hangar floor of the military installations, and we all kind of figured, okay, we're all going to get COVID. It's not
Wow.
a matter of if, but when. And then we all were required to get tested after that, like 9 days of activation, and I didn't get COVID. Nobody I knew got COVID, as far as I heard
Wow.
from all the people that were activated, the whole Minnesota National Guard. I don't believe anybody got COVID. I mean, there might have been some that I know of, but
Wow.
everyone, we all got tested and nothing. And it was going against the narrative of stay away 6 feet and all this. And so it's like all the rules started to kind of untangle at that time. And then not too long after that, they start rolling out the vaccine and
Mm,
then requiring that. Units are saying you got to get this. You got if you want to go to your leadership course, if you want to stay deployable, all these things, all that kind of stuff, saying you got to go get this. The VA has it, which I went and got it at the Minneapolis VA. It was a ghost town in there. It was
wow.
kind of the like outbreak, contagion type of movie atmosphere. And so I like you said, I rolled up my sleeve, and I'm expecting, a doctor, people to tell me, because I've been through briefings before about
Right.
very intense subject, and it wasn't like that at all. It was sit down here. We're going to stab you in the arm with this. Go sit down. If you have any issues, let us know. But otherwise, 15 minutes later, I'll see you later.
Was there
And
any informed consent given? Like, hey, these are all the possible things, this is experimental, and so
nope,
anything? Nothing.
nothing that I got. I didn't receive material. I didn't receive any kind of briefing, nothing like that. It was kind of routine. And that's what we kind of came to expect.
Right.
Being in basic training, you get something like 10, 13 shots in a row, vaccines in a row, during that in processing of basic training. Every military member goes through that in
Right.
some kind of way. And then every deployment, you're getting extra vaccines and shots. So it was kind of the normal thing to do and required to do so, but this
Did you,
one felt a lot different.
did you have any hesitancy about getting the vaccine? I mean, were there any of your, military peers or anybody saying, I don't know, I'm not, or was it
I
just,
wasn't I wasn't really hearing it. No.
no?
The
Okay.
National Guard's a little bit different where we don't speak to each other every day,
Okay.
every hour. It's a
Yeah.
little
My
more
son was in the
part-time.
National Guard.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it was a wild time, but all the politicians were saying safe and effective. I was hearing things saying if it'll stop transmission, it'll stop contagion, get
Yeah.
the shot so your grandmother doesn't get it. And my mother at the time was about 75. And like I said, I had an infant child at the time. So it's like you don't want to get either of them sick. You
Right.
don't want your mom to pass away, all these things. And a lot of these talking points all became void as the timeline went on.
So you get your first shot and everything's fine?
They said, talk about, adverse reactions or informed consent. They said you might get flu-like symptoms. That was the extent of my, warning from them, which everyone was talking about, and they talk about that with the flu vaccine and things like that too. And I did. I got flu-like symptoms. It felt like I was sick, and then that kind of went away. But then what replaced it was, and it was in that 2 week period. So I get the first shot, and then they say come back and get the other one later. I get that second shot, same kind of atmosphere, do it, and then I'm getting numbness, tingling in my fingers, and I'm like, all right, that's kind of weird. Whatever. I'm used to, just suck
Mhm.
it up and go on. It's probably stress. It's whatever. And then a day later, I'm getting weakness in my forearms, in my legs, lower legs, and everything like that. I'm like, all right, that's now it's getting kind of weird. I can't pick up a water bottle like it would feel like a water bottle. It would feel like 20 pound weight. And it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go get some rest. So I go fall asleep, wake up in the morning, something like 7 in the morning, and I can't move anything. My whole trunk is not moving. I remember my head, like, maybe I couldn't move my head, and then, but it was all that I could move were my fingers and barely my feet,
That must
and
have been
so
terrifying. Like, what was going through your mind?
my mind was I thought I had COVID. So it's like, okay, I got COVID. I need to get to the hospital. All these stories about, everything that's going on. The hospital's getting overrun. I got to get to the hospital so they can do whatever, or maybe it's something else. It didn't even cross my mind that it was the vaccine.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so my family gets me to the emergency room. They run all these tests, MRI, CAT scan, blood work, all that's coming back negative on any weird thing. COVID test, obviously, that
Right.
came back negative. And then, but the medical staff are like, we've seen these symptoms. We know it's Guillain-Barré syndrome. I've never heard of that. They didn't really explain it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like paralyzed? Like what
Tell
happened?
the audience explain what
Yeah,
Guillain-Barré is.
Guillain-Barré syndrome, they also call it the French polio. GBS, GB is what other people call it. Basically, your immune system turns on you coming from a virus, a viral load, viral infection, causes your immune system to turn on your body, switch roles, and now it's destroying nerves, organs, brain, lungs, tissue, all that. Think of it like a tornado or a tsunami just inside your body and just destroying everything. And so they said we got to do a lumbar puncture, a spinal tap, in order to have the evidence. If I remember right, it's like the spike protein evidence of that.
Okay.
And Guillain-Barré syndrome is a common side effect
Of
with
all vaccines,
all
but
vaccines,
of COVID for sure.
especially including the COVID-19
19 vaccine.
mRNA, Pfizer batch, everything that I got. It's clear as day. And I couldn't think at the time that they did the lumbar puncture, got the evidence, and immediately rushed me to a bigger hospital, to a neurological ICU, and they're going to town on me, and they said we need to put you into a coma. Uh, Call whoever you need to. We're going to be doing this quick, and we're going to go from there.
And so, gosh, so there you are. And weren't you in the hospital for like a very, very long time?
Yep, it ended up being just under 6 months. So, but
Wow,
getting the
6 months.
neurological ICU in there, I was waited on 24 hours a day. They put me into that coma. Didn't know if I was going to wake up or how long it would be. They had to do plasmapheresis and IVIG, intravenous immunoglobulin. It's basically like blood treatments to take out the bad stuff and put in new stuff. And my body rejected a lot of that at first, and so I was in the coma, knowing that I was in some kind of dream that I couldn't wake up from, and it was painful, like in my mind and body, and it ended up lasting about 10 days.
So you were in the coma for 10 days.
Yeah,
And then what happens? I
I
mean,
wake up out of the coma, and I absolutely can't move ever anything. My whole body is paralyzed. Even my eyelids. I thought I was closing my eyes. Instead, my pupils were just going to the back of my head, and it was all white. And
oh
so I
my,
was waited on hand and foot with occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. And keep in mind, they couldn't really do anything because my body wasn't even responding. It was fully paralyzed. Not to mention, the medication, like tracheostomy as well, because I couldn't speak. Everything was locked up, cords everywhere, and just vegetable status.
so was the vaccine ever mentioned? When does that come up? Like, hey, maybe this is from the vaccine.
It didn't come up with me or my immediate family speaking with the doctors, and we were waiting to have them talk about that. And then eventually, and keep in mind, I couldn't speak at the time, so it's not even like I could have a
Oh,
a coherent conversation with a doctor and everything, and it was scary at the time. Like we didn't have all the answers that we do now, and have it clear as day. But I assumed that they're like, okay, I got the vaccine right before this, uh, and then I'm starting to hear about, VAERS and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, they're going to put in VAERS report, and I find out later that they didn't do it.
They never put
Eventually,
it in.
no.
Okay, so for anybody, I always just assume people know what we're talking about, but for anybody who doesn't know, the VAERS is the vaccine adverse event reporting system, which doctors are medical professionals are required by law, although nobody does it, to report any adverse event that happens after a vaccine. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, absolutely, this is from it, but that is how they track what happens with the vaccine. If they find, oh, gosh, we see all these people reporting this, within 24 or 48 or, whatever, a week of having a shot, that's how they are supposed to be tracking these things. And so many, what I have found in the 4 years that I've been doing this is number one, I have found that most of the doctors and nurses that I've talked to didn't even know about VAERS. And for those that did, or for those that were injured, theirs was never reported for whatever reason. And of course, we know from Deb Conrad. Okay, so I just finished an interview with Matthew Guthrie from the film Follow the Silenced, which is a film everybody should see. I'll put the link to that in the show notes. But here she was, and she was highly credentialed. She was winning awards. I mean, she was well respected in her sphere at work, and she's putting in the VAERS reports, and she gets fired. She gets fired because they're like, yeah, you can't be doing that. So anyway, to go back to you, I just wanted
Yeah.
people to understand the reality of what was happening at this time. The people were getting injured like yourself, and many of these things were never recorded.
No, and then when I eventually could have an honest conversation with my doctor, the primary care that I had at the time, she bounced around the issue saying, "Oh, it could be from this, it could be from that. We don't know what it could be from." All these things. I'm like, "Yeah,
Didn't you?
but I
Didn't I hear
got
you say like one of them said it could be from a bad hot dog?
yeah." That's what they said because, if you even if you Google it, they say it could come from a, food poisoning or something like that. I'm like, I didn't have any of that. Like it's none of that is true. I had yeah.
Vaccine.
So it didn't make any sense. You could tell that they were bouncing around the idea, and that conversation was within the VA as well. So when I was at the main hospital where they did the coma, the surgery, all that kind of stuff, they were kind of stepping me down from the intense stuff, and then they're like, where do we put you? Into a long-term care unit? They didn't really want to suggest that because I just sit there like a vegetable, and they didn't really think I should go home either. So somebody came up with the idea of be like, how about the VA? So they were able to transfer me to the VA, and that's where I got some really good care as well. But it they weren't wanting to connect the dots like I believe that they should have. They were taking care of me in a great kind of way, but
So,
seems like they were being held back.
so with the VA, like what happened then with your military career? I mean, was there any were you just discharged? I mean, what? I mean, you'd served your
Yeah.
country for so long and so
It's a
faithfully.
medical retirement,
Okay.
but all the conditions, and I heard somebody else talk on a podcast recently, they won't connect it to the vaccine, but they'll connect it to other things. They'll connect the symptoms. Oh, Dr. Shackelford,
Okay,
shouldn't mind me
Christine. Oh
saying
yeah,
this.
she's great.
Yep. What happens, and she's seen it with other people, is they're like, okay, you have these symptoms, we have the area that you served and the issue that came up and the damage. So the VA connected, or the military connected those things to my previous time, especially the 2005 Iraq deployment, where my body got pretty messed up from there. Nothing related to vaccine stuff,
But
or
you were completely healthy before this. I mean,
I was doing Spartan races, I was running, I was, doing all kinds of things. And then, yeah, now my feet are still paralyzed. I still require ankle foot orthotics. basically carbon fiber things that wrap underneath my feet and up to my knee in order to otherwise my feet will go straight down. And I've caught that before. I can't remember if I told you recently that my dog got a little sick early in the morning, and I was hearing that noise, and I jumped up, and my feet gave out. My feet
Mm.
rolled over my toes and broke a couple toes.
Oh
And then I
no.
didn't even notice it. I just kind of cleaned up the mess and went back to bed. But in the morning, I had two toes that were completely purple. So it's
Um,
stuff like that where the mind, the body isn't connecting like it once before. And then not to mention like the cognitive stuff, the memory issues. My nerves are going back to Guillain-Barré syndrome. Basically your myelin sheath around your nerves gets eaten away. Think about like a cord that's plugged into a computer or your cell phone into a wall. Without that rubber coating, you just got electricity that's firing, especially when it's plugged into something like a computer or the wall. That's kind of the way that my body is right now, being brain connected to everything else that your nervous system goes to. It's just firing like crazy. So I try to have a conversation with somebody, and there'll be gaps in it. And I've been working pretty hard, over the last 4 years in these different specialties to like at least maintain, but it's a daily struggle. I have my good days and bad, you've seen them from me and other people in this stuff. And people ask me, they're like, well, are you fully recovered 99%, 20%? And I'm like, on one day I feel a little bit better and I could, work, do some writing or researching. And then other days I can't move my hands to type on a keyboard like I used to. I was writing, like you said, grad school, writing 30-page papers, and it's just not possible anymore. I'm slowly getting back to that, but it is not easy at all, or trying to explain to somebody.
so this is, I mean, to hear this is just so heart-wrenching to know that you've been left like this and to know that you've been silenced. Um, every injured person has been censored. Have you been able to get any compensation from the CICP? Um, how how are you surviving?
Uh, just with the military retirement, doing the best I can. I got family, but yeah, the bills just keep racking up. I do the best I can to, kind of save that. I have a GoFundMe, or excuse me, a Give Send Go, where people have been generous, donating to that, and that's been helpful as well.
I'll put that
But
in the show notes too.
yeah, yeah, it's Drew
But
Outstanding on Give
you
Send Go.
okay? Because you've said like what, four, five, $600,000 in medical bills.
Yeah, it started at 2 million. I think that was just for the first month, and I'm like, I sent it back saying, what is this? This doesn't make sense. I got insurance, and then they came back and okay, now it's 500,000, and I'm like, what is going on? And I told him, I'm like, I'm putting this on hold. We can go from here, but I've been waiting for like, an attorney or acknowledgement or whatever to kind of connect these dots and see if this makes sense. And I've been waiting for years now, trying to find attorneys and anything to move this forward. But like we said, 4 years later now, and we'll get some news stories here and there. James O'Keefe, and investigative journalist, has been doing some great stuff, and sometimes not mainstream, some mainstream, but others independent will talk about the subject, and then we'll talk on X Spaces and Twitter Spaces, but that's good for a little bit, but then it doesn't really move to anything. That's why I've seen React19 has been doing just amazing work, and uh, we're moving this forward as much as we can.
Yes, React19 is starting a military fund in the hopes to provide emotional and physical and monetary support for military members. But again, all of that comes from donations from people. I mean, everything that React19 gets in, every dime goes right back out to the injured. And they have been able to give out almost more money than our federal government, besides a couple of claims for a couple $1 million, I think, that were paid out to somebody who died. I mean, I think the average payout was $4,000 to like 37 people or something like that,
Yeah.
where React 19's given out over 1 million.
What about the CICP and that I was more than a year out from it? And because
So you
because they
couldn't
say
file?
I couldn't file. They say now I should file knowing that I'm going to get denied.
Yeah,
But yeah,
everybody
I didn't
gets
even
denied.
because yeah, it would have been like 2022 time frame and half of 2021 I was
Oh
paralyzed. Like
gosh.
and like I said, nobody's talking about, and that's a great thing about the React 19 is the resources, the advocacy, the people helping out the injured. Be like, okay, we're here to listen to you and provide resources. And like you mentioned, now we have a military chapter, so it's me and a few other people that are working on this military chapter of React 19, where we're supporting currently serving service members and veterans that have been injured by the COVID-19 vaccine. So it's a very specific scope, and it's going to help out so many people. And it first starts with that we're here to listen and hear what you have to say, and then that builds a community, and then it's like, okay, now here are the resources that other people have used that have helped out a lot. And then you get into that care fund where now we have a dedicated military care fund that people can both donate specifically to military injured within React 19, and then military members, veterans can receive from that fund. They can receive from both, but
Right.
we're building up both of these, and it's really cool thing to see making an impact.
And I think one of the things you just touched on is community. And I think that has been so key to so many of the injured. I don't know, where you would all be without each other. I mean, that was the whole point, early on where, Bree talks about in her book. You see it in like the movie Follow the Silence. Ron Johnson talked about it in his press conferences where people were finally being able to connect with each other over Facebook, social media. And that was their only lifeline. Like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is actually happening. And then more and more. And all of a sudden there's tens of thousands of people who are connecting. And then what does Facebook do? They get here from the Biden administration, oh, shut all these groups down. And then you have people committing suicide because that was their only lifeline. So that is a key function of React 19 is getting people together to be in community, to support each other, to help each other, and to know that you are not alone through this.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I thought I was alone. I thought I had to figure this out on myself. My broken self had to figure it out. Family has been supportive of my symptoms, but they don't understand, and it becomes a controversial topic at work situations and friends and family, and it really shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, partisan or anything like that. And like you mentioned, the censorship was just so extreme. Facebook
Brutal.
Meta, YouTube, Google, all those ones were just
We were
so far
all,
into it.
we were all taking, I mean,
Yep.
I would just post stories. It's taken off Vimeo, everything to this day. I mean, I think we all, I mean, feel shadow banned. I think X really changed when Elon bought X, that really changed everything. However, I would say like a year or so ago, something changed. I don't know what it is, that I feel like so many of the injured, myself included, like I could put out an interview on X. I remember John Bowden's I put out, it got 100,000 views. I can put out an interview now and it get like 100, 500. So
Yeah.
something's changed and other vaccine injured have noticed it. I don't know what. I mean, we're still not being taken down, but hopefully, I don't know, maybe that'll change back. However, it's still important anywhere, anytime people can tell their story, share their story. These stories do get heard, as I've said before, myself and others. We take these to our elected officials, our U.S. representatives and senators, our state representatives. We take this to county commissioners. Every story that it gets told, we just try to put it out there and share the work of React 19 and the injured. And so I'm just so grateful for your willingness to do this. I have to ask you though. So here you are completely paralyzed. How do you start to move again?
Yeah, that was it in the VA. It was basically every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Like I mentioned, I had occupational therapy. It was like a high school course load where it's every hour I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy,
Wow.
medicine. And like I mentioned, the medicine had to go into my stomach. They grinded it up and then put it into a, water solution and then injected in my stomach, which was painful as well. And then I had a food tube going in as well. So it's like, and among other things. And so it's just
And
like
so you
everything
can
was
eat
painful.
or talk or
I couldn't, yeah, eventually they had I'm gonna mess up these names. I wasn't a medical guy before all this, but I had a pass through valve, so I could talk through my neck, in a way. So technology, I guess, has been pretty cool. I've been able to do more things, but no, I couldn't use my mouth. They tried to do a swallow study to see if my lungs, my throat, could take in air slash food slash water. And so they gave me a dye, and in the X-ray, I did that, and they're all confident that I would be able to do this. I do it, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great. I want to go home. I want to go home in 2 weeks. And I'm like, all right, what's next? So they had like layers that we're gonna try different things. We're gonna start off with liquid, and then d different things. And I do the liquid, and I'm like, all right, what's next? And the guy goes, the technician, and he's like, I think I have all what I need right now. And I'm like, uh-oh. And so
oh
it
no.
went down the wrong tube, and I developed pneumonia right away. And so
Oh
that set me back.
no.
And so I was terrified to do that swallow study again later. So the speech therapist, we had to work on gaining muscle in the throat. And it's like, yeah, everything broke down, turned off, and had to be turned back on like at a computer safe mode. All
How
of
did
my
you not give
systems.
up? How did you not give up?
Thank you. Yeah, I get compliments like that all the time. It was my son, my infant son at the time, which was, forgive me if I get a little heated into this, but it was they said he couldn't come into the hospital. They said because of COVID rules, no kid under 13 could come in. So they told me, well, you could bring him to the window since I was on the first floor. Somebody could bring him to the window, and then I could do FaceTime with him there. And I was still paralyzed at the time, and I wanted to throw that nurse outside the window herself. I want to do that. I don't want harm on anybody. But man, that was tough to be. So
And you
and
were
I
in
didn't
the
know it was gonna be
hospital for
six
six
months.
months. Oh my, yeah.
I didn't know it was gonna be 6 months. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Can it like in 2 weeks? Can I go? Every day with meeting with the doctor, I'm like, I want to get out of here. I want to get to my son. And they kept saying things like, if we send you off too early, you're gonna be worse off. Like it was always something like that, which made sense, but it didn't feel very good.
Right.
And so I knew I had to get out of this a different to be the leader, to be the father that my son needs as he grows up. So people ask me like, how do you not give up? How do you get through all of it? I'm like, I really don't know. I'm grateful to be here. People have talked about, wondering about suicide and stuff like that. I'm like, that is the opposite. I would never do that. I want at most to enjoy every moment of life, even in this crazy time that we're in right now. But I have to do it to get back to my son, to be the father and the man he needs. And so I
Well,
fought every day. It was painful. The physical therapy, it was not fun. Like the longest time I could barely move anything, and then it was like one arm came back faster than the other, and it was tough. It was a marathon. It was painful. I either was drowsy because of the medicine, or the medicine wasn't kicking in so I was in full on pain. The amount of drugs that they had me on, I don't know other people that were on that many, and I tried to just both not take ones that I didn't need. They're like, oh, you could take this one 4 times a day, and I'm like, I prefer not to. Like, so I couldn't give up. And so what I did is I just laid there paralyzed in the hospital bed, looking at the ceiling tiles and being how can I make this into, because I did PowerPoint presentations and slide decks all the time, obviously in presentations in my work and military leadership experience. So I'm like, I got to make a game plan, a business plan, anything I can to keep going. And then like we talked about on X, just as soon as Elon bought that, said talked about free speech, I jumped on that immediately, and it was scary. I was never on Twitter before that,
Yeah, most of
Jack
us weren't.
Dorsey Twitter. Yeah, so I went on and I'm just playing around and I see the X spaces and I start listening and they're talking about COVID and everything and
It was like
the
amazing.
vaccines. Yeah, and it's like, okay, I can listen. And then I'm like, put me in the game, coach. So I asked to be a speaker on one, and they brought me up, and I began to connect with more people. And then some people are talking about, oh, we're gonna have this convention. Come out to this one, and I'm like, all right, it's 6 months away. Let's maybe I can find a way to do that. And
Oh,
they gave me a wheelchair. I needed a power
oh,
chair at the time. I used to travel internationally for military and work and nationally all over the place. I'm like, there's got to be a way I can make this happen. So
wow.
I developed goals with all these specialties that say I want to get back to living, and they helped me get there. But it wasn't pretty. Yeah, there's me in my wheelchair. I was meeting Gina Carano at a convention there. So she was a proponent of saying this vaccine stuff is a little goofy, and then she got kind of canceled for different roles. So I did get a chance to meet some amazing people in the last couple of years that are good people when it came to the different areas that were affected by this.
I mean, I think that is the most remarkable thing about your story. I hope people will check out some of your other videos. I mean, especially you've got some where you're with like military bros, and so people in the military would appreciate probably those more than, me. But but you I think I saw something where you said, you might not be able to do much, but you can do something. And you're doing like all these sport things. Like I think I heard you were doing scuba diving, and you just did a bicycle thing in Chicago a couple weeks ago. Tell us
Yep.
about that a
I
bit.
well, when let me start by putting they put me on so much medication when I got
Mm,
well, both in the hospital and when I got out. The highest one I think was like 30 different medications per day, and each one would cause a new side or new symptom, and then they'd offer a new one after that, and three different doctors were prescribing. Like it was a mess. I couldn't get back. So I'm like, there's got to be another way. So I began to lean on adaptive sports. I did different
adaptive
kind of
sports.
individual sports, and I'm like, okay, maybe adaptive sports is where I should be at. And I didn't even think it was possible for me to do these things again, let alone stuff that I didn't do when I was fully healthy. But relying on that recreation therapy because they had the equipment, they provided experts, trainers, instructors, everything you could think of. So I could just be there, and they said we'll get you to go downhill on a ski or I got HSA certified with scuba, so it means handicap scuba certified. So they're like, we'll assign you a dive buddy and we'll give you all the instruction. We'll
Oh
do it
my
as a group. And
gosh.
there are things out there that can help you get, if you're in a bad situation, yeah, check these things out. And the donors are amazing. So yeah, I jumped at these. There's nothing that I won't try to if it will help me to get better. And by doing these active sports, I'm able to do more day to day. Get out of bed, brush my teeth, make a meal for myself or others. Like I can do more of the daily things by stretching and getting out and going after a mountain and stuff like that. So that's what I've turned it into. I began to launch my own business and consulting, and it should be happening pretty soon. But yeah, it's really saying that this doesn't have to be your end of the story, just the end of your chapter, and let's see what the rest of the book has to offer.
It, That's remarkable. I mean, that is just remarkable. I think I mentioned just before this interview, was interviewing Matthew Guthrie, and he was saying, we need to approach this with love and forgiveness and all that. And I said, that's true and that's right, but Matthew, what do you say to the injured person who's lost everything? They've just had to leave their house because they were evicted because they couldn't pay their bills. And what you're saying preaches easy but lives hard to see, just forgive those. And And he's like, I understand, it's right to be angry. He said, but you just keep pushing forward. You just keep going forward, doing the next thing. And in the interview, I said, that is Drew. That is Drew. I mean, I said
I just can't sit still. Like
I
that's my thing. This injury, this illness forces me to stay still because like as I do more, the fatigue ramps up. So it's like I just have to pre-plan before the event, after the event, of what it's going to look like, and it's not going to look like the average person.
right.
Recovery, take a rest, or go to sleep. It's I might need 6 hours of just decompressing or whatever, but that is what I'm being called to do. And yeah, like we can forgive, but I don't know. It's
No, there needs to be accountability. There needs
accountability, acknowledgement,
and help
just
in
the
some.
truth. Can we start with the truth
Yeah, can
and
we start with the truth?
investigation?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I know there are many people working towards that goal, and we're just going to keep moving in that direction. What advice do you have to those who are caretakers or just, maybe family member? Okay, you're injured. So what have been the most helpful things? Maybe people don't, oh, I don't know if I should say something. How can I do? How can people help that are around you or some people who are around the injured?
Acknowledge that it's going to look ugly in days. The communication is going to be off. There's going to be high and low emotions, and I just feel like when I talk to people that don't kind of get it, or they're so close in my life where they saw me who the person I was, and now I'm trying to like articulate what's going on with me. Just meet them at where they are, and just
Meet them
kind
where
of
they are.
yeah, meet them where they are, and then talk about where they want to go. And it's never going to be a one-time conversation, but I focus on my dreams, and then like I mentioned, my son and other people. When I started on X and the Twitter Spaces and learning about Ernest's son and Brianne Dressen and all these people from different industries, different ages, different walks of life that have been devastated by this. There's a lot of people that have it harder than I've been through, less than I've been through, about the same, but we all have a different story and a different kind of path that got us where we are.
Right.
With very similar symptoms. I hear a lot about brain fog, about fatigue, about neuropathy. I'm like, yep, I
Yeah,
got all
being
those.
electrocuted 24/7.
Electrocuted, like I'm like this can't be nothing because we all got these similar
Yeah,
symptoms. So it's like, where do we go from that? But yeah, I recognize that other people are in a different season of this illness and recovery than I am. Some are farther along than I am, but then I have my bad days too. Like I have to be honest with myself. I journal. I'm gonna have a journal now that I can use my
no,
hands. So I take
wow.
notebooks with me and I just talk to myself. I talk to my past self. I talk to my future self. I talk to my future son. I just about like how tough it is because we all have these conversations with people with hey, how's it going, good, or it is what it is, or life's a whatever and then you die. And I just never gravitated toward those kind of just meaningless conversations. I'm like, okay, yeah, we talked about that and the weather, like now let's get into it, let's learn from each other, let's kind of figure out how we can help each other along the way, and tell me what you learned when you went through your Guillain-Barré syndrome a couple years ago or whatever, or let me share what helped me the most, or that sharing stuff, that resources like you and I talked about earlier is
Right.
that's where we start, is connecting with each other, because I thought I was alone, and then I realized I'm part of this bigger thing with other people.
Oh, you're so right. So right. What has been the biggest like shocker to you? Like, I didn't know the world operated like this. And maybe that's the big thing. I just didn't know the world operated like this. What has shocked you through all of this? And you're a man who has seen war and death
Yeah.
and
And
plunder.
it's so strange because looking back, that was a little bit more cut and dry. Good
Mm,
people, bad people, bad people doing bad things, or people doing this, and you have a mission and you can kind of understand what you're doing. And the last 4 or 5 years, since 2020, all that's turned into like gray area. I just can't believe the people that were promoting this kind of stuff and then they didn't retract what they were saying. or
Even when
when
they
what,
knew that all the injuries were taking place.
yeah, and some people will come around, your Cuomo's and stuff like that, and there have been other proponents. Patrick Bet David and his crew have been absolutely amazing. I connected with a few of them in person and then watched their things. So there are some people that are continuing to talk about this, but some I was just completely surprised where they were so forthright about promoting this medical procedure, and then when a lot of it didn't come out to play the way they thought it would, they moved on, and there's nothing that they'll say. Or, okay, here's the answer to your question. And what they say in public is a lot different than what they say behind the scenes. And I'm like, why? What is it? Money, power?
Right.
How much power and money do you need? Like, I don't get it. That's what I'm lost in. I don't get the reasoning behind people's actions and words when you think the world is a certain way and realize that there's a lot under there. People that intelligent people, people that own
Right.
businesses, people that are very effective, but their morals, in my opinion, haven't been aligned with uh, how they are, that their prestige and success. And I that's been the most difficult thing for me. The answer to that is maybe their mind, I try to give them benefit of the doubt.
Mhm.
Maybe their mind can't effectively recognize the pain that has been caused by their
Exactly.
words and actions, and their mind won't let them acknowledge that they were wrong. And I'm like, that's the best reason that I can come up with. I don't understand it completely. It's not who I am or who I was built. I was built with the army values, and in turn built my own family values, off that and other things. Integrity, honor, duty, those are real things to me. And I now understand that not everybody is built that way.
Well, you have done an outstanding job in upholding those values, and I can only imagine how blessed your son is going to be able to say, yeah, that's my dad. That's my dad.
Thank you.
And there's not a lot of men out there like that. And so I'm glad that your son's going to be able to say that. So, is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap up? And where can people, well, people can get in touch with to contact React19, react19.org/military, and that'll all be in the show notes. But is there any places that people can connect with you that you'd like to share?
Yep. Drew Outstanding on X, on Twitter X, Drew Outstanding,
Okay.
as well as my YouTube, Operation Outstanding Infield. Operation Outstanding Infield. So three different words. And that's where I do my speaking engagements, my adaptive sports, anything.
Wow.
I do some interviews as well. But yeah, keep talking about this. Keep talking. I know it's a tough subject. It's not something the people that were wrong about this don't want to talk about it. And the people that were right about a lot of stuff don't really want to talk about it anymore. They want to move on to the next subject.
But we
And
can't move on.
unfortunately, the only people that still want to talk about it are the ones that were affected, like myself, and the family and friends that were, affected by either family members injured or, the mandates or getting fired, canceled, like the Gina Carano's and others. But keep talking about this. That you're not alone. It's a tough subject. I put my stuff. I decided to put my things out there, put my story out there, and it's not easy, but it is worth it. And if I can help somebody else with my story, that's all worth it. It's doing the right thing even when no one's looking.
And there's no doubt that your story will inspire others. I mean, I'm not even injured and I'm just so inspired by your story. So, everybody, please check out the resources. I'll put all these links in the show notes. Share this out. Share this out with your, medical professionals, your lawmakers, any journalists you might know, just family, friends, because the goal here is for recognition and to everybody, these people stepped up to do what they were asked to do, and Drew cannot be left abandoned. and all the other people. So please do what you can to push forward, and we can't let this be covered up. So Drew, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know, I'm sure your day is very, busy with just trying to stay alive, just trying to keep doing the next thing. And I
Yeah.
just
And
appreciate the
it's not
time.
over. I get infusions. I still get the IVIG every
Oh,
2 weeks. It's 6 hours a day, 2 days in a row. So next week I'm at my peak right now, and now it's gonna cater down. And then next week I'll need a another infusion sitting there for 12 hours.
and I don't think, I mean, the people who should be paying for that, because isn't that like $10,000 a time or something?
Yep. Fortunately
Yeah.
for me, I'm getting it from the VA. So that's helping out with that one. I still have the other bills and things like that and specialties, but that part is getting helped out.
Yeah, and there's so many people who need that and can't get it, and it really can be life-saving. I mean, just to be able to function in your life. So, all right, well, yeah, and the people who should be paying for that are the pharmaceutical companies, not the taxpayer or higher insurance premiums or anything else. We just got to keep talking. We just got to keep talking. So thank you. And we will look forward to, connecting again in the future. Please check out Drew on X and other places. And yeah, again, just thank you so much, Drew.
Thank
And
you.
and give that little boy of yours a hug.
I will. Yep. Biggest hug. Yep. He's living his best life right now. I'm gonna make sure of that.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.